Aid stand to fund their own brain surgery, or any other feel-good story that's actually the result of a systemic problem. Those are headlines created to give clicks to local news because local news is dying. It's just compounding bummers.
Right. No corporations doing single good deeds for PR when they could be doing a bunch of obviously better things instead. Also, maybe no, GoFundMe stories either. They're mostly always inspired by ungodly systemic injustices. It's great that they raised $625 million for COVID-19 related hardships in 2020, but that doesn't solve the problems that created those hardships. Not to mention that out of the 165,000 pandemic related campaigns on their site, 40% of those received exactly 0 donations. Oh, did we mention, by the way, no kissing on the mouth, Warbo?
Yes, but that bears repeating.
Yeah.
No kissing us on the mouth, Warbo!
Well, geez, you silly goats. What does count as a good news story?
Any systemic change in the right direction. Like how so many places in America are now expunging marijuana-related charges, or how solar power is getting cheaper and more powerful. Those are signs of larger, broad changes, while still coming with their own nuances to work out.
That sounds boring.
It is boring, Warmbo. Most actual good news is boring and incremental. That's why it would be cool, if a certain someone was a little more receptive to eating inedible objects, but what are we gonna do? Sneak into their house and hide pennies and all of their groceries?
Right. Because that would be illegal, Katie.
And extremely entertaining. Anyway, Cody, sounds like you got an episode on your hands, so I'll just let you get to it.
But I thought this was a gift for Mr. Cody and Miss Katie.
Oh,
Wombo would be so happy if Miss Katie told Wombo about some good news. And perhaps, just for Wombo, you don't have to talk about the Democrats or those pesky Republicans.
Sure, Warmbo. And perhaps Mr. Cody can use the time to go through his kitchen and look for any pennies, because apparently I have to do that. You want to help me, buddy?
Can do.
All right, have fun doing the good news, sucker!
Thanks, best friend. Yeah. Hey, guys. Yeah, no, so this is different. Looks like I'm gonna do some news for ya. Look, I know it's weird and I'm new here, but look, I think that we're gonna have a pretty fun time, right? You could call it a holiday special if that makes you feel better. And I think that means that we have to start by saying, here's some good news. Weed isn't the only drug that's getting slowly decriminalized in this country. Sure. We all love doing mushrooms when we're going to the planetarium or a music festival or the dentist. But did you know that they can also be used to treat depression? Specifically, I'm talking about psilocybin, the psychoactive chemical compound found in more than 100 species of fungi, which can impact cognition, mood, and perception by activating your brain's serotonin receptors. And while this drug is more associated with taking a lot and then tripping your balls and or ovaries off, it's possible that lower doses could allow people with depression to function in their daily lives. Microdosing. I'm sure this isn't new news for yous. And speaking of not at all new news for yous, people are pretty damn bummed right now. On account of the COVID. Humans generally don't like being trapped inside for several years. And so, an August 2020 CDC survey indicates that depression symptoms quadrupled among Americans during the first year of the pandemic. 'Cause yeah, of course it did. We couldn't hang out with our friends or go to the movies or take acid at the dentist. So people, could really use a win right now. Perhaps seeing their favorite YouTube star swallow a penny. Or, failing that, better access to drugs and treatment that could ease depression. But of course, They don't need to be the right drugs, and it turns out that only 28% of patients who report major depression symptoms say that their conditions lessened following the standard course of treatment, specifically selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs. It can take 6 to 8 weeks before someone can even start to see any benefit from those kinds of drugs, which, sorry, is a long time if you're experiencing severe PTSD or suicidal ideation or other debilitating symptoms. So, even if you have the resources to afford a therapist and, you build up the courage and energy to go see that therapist and you get prescribed and purchase a new medication, you will still have to wait 6 to 8 weeks before you even know if it's going to do anything. And considering that 2/3 of all patients who take these drugs don't respond to the first medication that they're prescribed, your initial chances aren't even all that good. And that's on top of the side effects. Oh, wait, did I mention the side effects? Stuff like nervousness and a reduced sex drive, which honestly just sounds like having depression all over again. And so the point I am making here is that the way we are currently treating these conditions sure seems like it could be better. Meanwhile, clinical trials suggest that psilocybin could be particularly helpful at treating anxiety and depression disorders that have proved resistant to other forms of therapy. This is why the drug received a breakthrough therapy status upgrade from the FDA in 2018, allowing some limited and controlled forms of research to begin. I mean, the drug was first investigated for potential therapeutic uses way back in the 50s, so, not much of a breakthrough. But of course, we can thank America's war on drugs for why this is just taking so dang long. Hey, real quick, how'd that war on drugs work out again? We won decisively? No? No more drugs? Yeah, I bet that's it. So, despite its many potential benefits, the Federal Controlled Substances Act of 1970 classified psilocybin as a Schedule I substance, restricting its manufacture, importation, and use, even for verified medical research. But don't worry, because this is about good news, remember? It is, I swear! Because, as of this recording, 9 U.S. cities and the entire state of Oregon have officially decriminalized or legalized psilocybin. This includes Detroit residents voting to decriminalize psychedelics entirely back in November. Also, in October, Seattle's city council voted unanimously to relax the city's rules against so-called entheogens. Entheogens, which are psychoactive substances that occur naturally in plants like shrooms, peyote, and ayahuasca. So while local governments can't actually ease any major regulations that hold back on scientific research, it is nice to see that possession or sale of these drugs have become a low priority for cops. Right next to actually stopping crimes and respecting basic human rights. Ayo. So, you still can't have it prescribed to you, sure, but at least you can do a bunch of mescaline in the comfort of your own public mall fountain and not feel paranoid about getting into too much trouble. But you might wonder what we are doing to speed up research on psilocybin and other drugs that might ease depression. Well, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has introduced 2 separate amendments that would allow for more research on psychedelics and other Schedule I drugs. So far, neither has passed, but the second one went down by a narrow margin, so that's something, yeah? Technically good. Or perhaps more gooder than you think, because along with AOC, both Rick Perry and Rep. Dan Crenshaw have shown at least some support for using drugs like psilocybin and MDMA as therapy for veterans. It seems that this is not a partisan issue, which in this country is like a fucking miracle.
It is Marine, blown up in Afghanistan about a year before I was blown up, terrible TBI issues for years. And said that that psychedelic treatments had changed his life. So it was just very strange that I was getting both of these testimonies within the span of 24 hours. So we're going to hear about that today. This is focused on MDMA, also known as ecstasy.
Hey Dan, glad you're on board. Maybe you and the rest of the GOP don't have to personally experience something to change your mind and develop empathy. I don't know, just a suggestion. Anyway, speaking of MDMA, it's not just mushrooms that people are looking at for possible treatments. In 2017, the FDA declared MDMA, the key ingredient in the party drugs ecstasy and Molly, another kind of breakthrough therapy that could be legally studied in a controlled environment. The drug increases feelings of closeness, enhances emotional empathy, and promotes thoughtfulness and contemplation, which some neuroscientists believe could prove particularly